Hey everybody, I'm Howard, and this is Otter's Retirement Corner. So I want to talk about something a little darker today, unfortunately. I'm 68 years old. Anyone watching this who's in their, late 50s, early 60s and beyond has these same thoughts and experiences I do. So it's nothing unique. It's just that it's been hitting a lot lately for me. As most of you know, I am in several softball leagues. I probably touch 150 people, different people in these leagues at various times. So I get to know them. I'm not great close friends with anybody, but we're friends. We spend a lot of time with each other. We get to know each other. Some I travel with. I'm on the road with them. Um, going out to eat, hanging out, things like that. But what's happened lately, and this isn't new. It just seems to be a lot lately, and that is, when you hang around people who are, from 50 to 80, people get sick and people die, and it sort of hits more recently for some reason. Um, I just played softball yesterday with one particular group, and after the game, they were discussing several people. One guy standing right next to me, and he had told me beforehand, he just had prostate cancer and he's getting treated for that. Another guy in the hospital with pancreatitis, another guy with cancer, another guy with a heart condition. Um, just boom here, boom, 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 boom. That's why these three guys aren't here, and this other guy is here. But he's dealing with this problem. I'm just seeing it more and more lately. Last week, the other one of the other leagues I'm in, they sent out an email talking about two people who just died overnight. Um, One wasn't playing anymore, but one had been playing, and they just died. Heart attacks, stroke. I didn't ask for and don't get details, but overnight so and so died. Um, I know several people in that league who are dealing with cancer and are dealing with heart disease, and we've had three or four quadruple bypasses in the last year of this group. Most of them come back and play again, remarkably enough. Um, the other big league I'm in, they sent out an email last week announcing four people who had passed away. I didn't know those people, but I'm sure I played it with them or against them at some point. Um, and you can say, yeah, it happens. We're old, but suddenly there's this rush that, my goodness, look, everyone's dying around me. Everyone's getting sick around me. And, I know this, I know what the numbers are and the percentages and the, life expectancies and who's going to, what number are going to die. But it doesn't really strike you until boom, it's right there in your face. I had this awakening, was it 7 years ago? I was working out up in my workout room upstairs in another house, and it suddenly dawned on me, I'm 61 years old. That used to be really old to me, and I'm thinking, I'm 61 years old. My dad died in his 60s. It's like, I'm really old. I, I could die at any minute. And it was just sort of a strange feeling. Since then, I think I understand I've lived a long life. I'm 68. I should live a lot longer, but, it could be me. Um, about one out of three people are going to get cancer, and some will beat it. Prostate cancer is very beatable. There's the various other forms of cancers that are at least held at bay, and you may live long enough that something else kills you. But I understand what the odds are. So far, I've avoided cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. Which, if you can do that, your odds of living past the average age for your cohort are pretty good. I think in my case, it'll be, liver disease or kidney disease that'll ultimately get me, but that remains to be seen. Um, and I'm telling you all this in a way of saying, for those of you who are going through it, we get it. My sympathy, my empathy is out. It's hard to have empathy because I haven't had those things, but I've had my own things. Nothing as serious as cancer. Um, reach out to support group around you. In the softball league, it's very strong. Once word gets out, in any of the basically four leagues I play in, we kind of rally around those people. Um, Whether it's the group that's religious or they're just friendly, there's always support. There are guys who are all alone. They tend to work on a buddy system where they call each other to make sure they're okay during the week. If someone doesn't call, you can go check on them, that kind of thing. Um, Fortunately, I have a wife. If something happens to me, she'll know. But it's just odd. There's nothing unusual about it, I'm sure. I'm sure there's no change in the number. I'm sure there's no different trend in the diseases that people are getting. But it just struck me a lot recently. Kind of weird, you know. And I don't know what the message here, other than understand where you are, what you're up against, what your hopes are. Be realistic. I don't want to be, fatalistic. But we're all going to die. Nobody gets out alive. Some of us die young. Some of us die older. Some of us, when we get older, will probably wish we died younger. It's a morbid subject. I get that, but it's. I think it was just an important part about being retired and being older. I don't want to say elderly. To me, elderly's like in the 80s. So just it was just something on my mind, something I want to talk about. Glad to hear your comments, about how this comes up to you, what you're seeing around you. My guess is the more people the more you hear about this kind of thing. If you don't have a wide circle of friends or acquaintances, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, you may not hear it. And this isn't a warning, but it's happening. Again, don't want to be morbid. Want to be upbeat. So thanks all for watching. Next video will be less morbid and more upbeat, but give me your comments. Interested to hear from you. Thanks. Bye.